and 10% didn't. And I noticed that, I mean, it's clear to me that seeing these successful conversations with other people who I respect, I began to wonder that I might be the problem. And I think I am the problem. Well, before you applaud, maybe I didn't mean that quite the way you took it. I think it's a good sort of problem for Jordan to have, because it's what happens on those 10% moments and what doesn't happen that I think made our conversation so hard. And I think there is stuff to clarify between us. So I look forward to doing that, and thank you, Jordan, for agreeing to do this. It's an honor to share the stage with you, and needless to say, having Brett as a moderator is almost an obscene underestimation of the role he should be playing on any stage, because as you know, he's been on my podcast, and that was one of the best conversations I've ever had. So thank you for doing this, Brett.
Thanks, Sam.
All right. So I'm going to jump right into it, I think. Here. So look, I put up a poll a couple of days ago to find out what people, broadly speaking, might want us to discuss. And I've been taking a look at that, and I took a lot of notes, which is why I have my computer here, by the way, and my phone. It's not to check my email while the debate's going on, the discussion. I thought what I might do is just lay out some places that I think Sam and I agree. And because there's lots of places we agree. And then I want to figure out where we disagree, which I've been trying to sort out, and then I want to see if we can hash it out a little bit and move forward on that a bit. So I'm going to lay out, see, one of the things that Carl Rogers said, the psychologist, was that a good way to have a discussion with someone is to tell them what you think they think until they think that what you said reflects what they said. But look, this is a really useful thing to know if you're ever having a discussion with an intimate partner, for example, is that you have to put their argument back to them in terms they agree with. It's very difficult. So I'm going to try to do that. And so the first thing is, I think that partly what's driving you, if this is accurate, is that you want to ground a structure of ethics in something solid. And there's two things you want to avoid, two catastrophes, let's say. One is the catastrophe that you identified with religious fundamentalism, and the other is the catastrophe that's associated with moral relativism. Is that reasonable?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, good. Okay, well, no, but it's... Okay, so it's crucially important that we get this right. Now, and that's something that I think we really agree on, because I've conceptualized that slightly different than you, and that might be relevant, but I think of that as a pathology of order and a pathology of chaos. So the terminology is slightly different, but I think we're working on the same axis. So that's the first thing. And then in order to do that, it seems to me, that's your first priority. And then maybe your second priority is something like, you see undue suffering in the world, plenty of it, and you would think that things would be better if that wasn't the case, and that this morality, whatever it's going to be, is at least going to ground itself in part on the presupposition that the less undue suffering in the world, the better. Is that also reasonable?
Yeah, I would just add to that the positive side of the continuum as well. So as you know, the phrase I use, or the word I use for this is well-being.
Yep.
And I know from having, I don't think we spoke about this on my podcast, but from having seen you in other interviews, I think you think that phrase doesn't capture everything one could reasonably want. But I think it does. I mean, it's an elastic suitcase term for a reason, and it's actually, in reading your book, I realize there's a point of contact here, because you use the word being, capital B, being, as though it were imbued with significant gravitas, and so for me, and I agree with you, that's an appropriate use of being, and for me, well-being is simply just the positive side of being. There's the negative side, the suffering we want to mitigate, but I think however good consciousness can be in this universe, that the well-being for me subsumes all of those possibilities.
Okay. Well, so I focused on the suffering element, I think, as I've done in my own work, because I actually think it's easier to zero in on in some sense. Like, I think it's easier for people, and I think you lay out the argument in the moral landscape kind of like this. I think it's easier perhaps to gain initial agreement between people on what might constitute a generalized ethic, to concentrate on what we don't want.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that what we do want is unimportant, but it seems to me to be harder to get a grip on. We don't want Auschwitz. We don't want the Gulag Archipelago. So, and there are...
And I would add, to just closing the door to moral relativism here, those who do want Auschwitz are wrong to want Auschwitz. I'm a realist. I'm a moral realist, and what realism means is that there are right and wrong answers to questions of this kind, and our job is to discover just how good life can be and just what variables are making it needlessly horrible, and to mitigate all of that and live in a better world.
Okay. Well, so